So what went wrong with this movie that worked so well here? It's the same director and team of writers. Many people returned from the previous production. Maybe it's the source material. Maybe it was too light, and they tried to shove in too much of the dark stuff, and it just didn't work. Or maybe they should have kept it dark and left out the childish parts. But ultimately, it should have been left as a duology. Whoever made the decision to make a third film really hurt the film. Maybe it was entirely PJ's idea, but I'm sure the studios were twisting the knife in his back just a little bit. An Unexpected Journey is not a bad movie, but it has nothing on these original films, and I personally think the extended edition is way too long, and to be blunt, boring. And I have the utmost respect for Peter Jackson, the man who was solely responsible for this masterpiece of modern cinema. He renewed the public's love for Tolkien and started a whole new fan base. Jackson put years of work and effort into these films. They started pre-production in '97, I think, and they didn't finish until 2004, if you include the Return of the King extended edition. He put an unsurmounted amount of care and detail into these films. He was involved in every aspect of them. These movies weren't a case of a studio throwing a pile of money at him and saying, "Here's a script, go make a movie." He fought so hard and so long to make these films that no one thought could work. Jackson is an excellent filmmaker. The very first feature he ever made with money from his own pocket made it into the Cannes Film Festival. The 2 to 3 movie split felt so out of place for a man who took such care with his films, it's almost like it were out of his hands. Maybe it was the studio's idea to increase the profits by 33%. Then they threw a mountain of money at him and adjusted the contract. Remember when I said that Jackson originally didn't want to direct?
Dreaded The Hobbit, and why I really didn't think I was going to make it for such a long time.
Yeah, would you ever think about the potential making The Hobbit after this is all said and done, now that you've spent so much time establishing the world of Middle-earth? And he was quick to answer with, no, not interested in that.
I was always unsure whether I should direct The Hobbit. I didn't really want to end up in a position where I was thinking back to what I did in Lord of the Rings, feeling like I was almost competing with myself.
He simply didn't love the story of The Hobbit like he did the Lord of the Rings. He'd been dreaming about making those movies since he was a teenager. So when he made the trilogy, it was a lifetime of love and creativeness poured into 3 movies.
And so it became a question of whether Guillermo waited for the next 6-month delay, or does he move on and jump back on board one of the other projects he was developing. And that's ultimately what happened around May and June in 2010.
I thought the whole thing had just folded, to be honest. It was a horrible moment.
Peter didn't immediately, pick up the reins either. I think a lot of people think that as soon as Guillermo left, Peter was in. That was not the case. I think Peter kind of struggled with it.
At the point that Guillermo left, a substantial amount of money had been spent and a huge amount of work had been done.
The Hobbit was simply a second effort. He didn't put in the same love and creativity, less passion. So when Del Toro left production and everyone looked at Jackson, he kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, "I guess I'll do it." But is Peter Jackson to blame? In my opinion, not entirely. In part, I blame myself and the fans. The reason this movie was made was to appease us like we're some sort of bloodthirsty god demanding more Middle-earth. Jackson knew that letting the movie collapse in pre-production would mean people losing jobs, Warner Brothers being pissed off, and millions of disappointed fans. Just like a young Frodo Baggins, Peter Jackson chose to do what he thought was right. And I respect him for that.